When were you born?
12/10/36, December.
Okay. Where were you born?
Okay, I was born in Glauchau.
Okay.
Glauchau.
Germany?
Germany, yeah. That would be in Saxony, toward where Leipzig is. It's Sudetenland. It's close to Sudetenland. Saxony.
So it'd be a kind of northeast.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Okay. What was your mother and father's name?
Okay, my mother's name was Traudel or Troudy.
That was her first name.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the middle name was Margareta, and then her maiden name was Dola, and of course she married a Jentsch.
Okay, now what was your dad's first name and everything?
Okay, his name was Fritz.
Do you remember when they were born?
Yeah, let's see. Dad was born in 1916. Hey, Janice?
1912.
Because I'm trying to remember.
Well, what about your mom?
No, she was born in 16, I believe. I got the
15?
16, yeah.
16. What? You said you had a brother. What was his name?
Okay, his name was Wolfgang.
How do you spell that?
WOLF.
WOLF.
GANG.
Oh, Wolfgang.
Okay. Yeah, Wolfgang.
They call it Wolfgang? Well, the W was always a kind of V sound, wasn't it?
Well, no, not really. It's Wolfgang. The short name is Wolfie.
Wolfgang.
WOLF, yeah.
But it was spelled Wolf, but it was Wolfgang.
The reason is, see, we pronounce the O as an O, and let's see, Wolf. They pronounce the alphabet a little bit different from us, and so that makes a difference in the sound.
So you were born 3 years before the outbreak of World War II, or actually a little less than 3 years. So I don't expect you to have any memory of that. And of course, you were born right kind of in the middle of the rebuilding of the German army and the German nation after World War II.
Right.
What was your earliest memory? I mean, not necessarily just your earliest memory period that you can think of.
Okay, well, to begin with, I never knew my dad because he was in the military.
Okay.
And he was always gone.
Now, he was in the military even when you were born, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the reason we were in Eger, because they kind of took over Sudetenland, you know.
Right.
Well, the earliest recollection of what I can remember.
So actually, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you were actually born in Czechoslovakia then, weren't you?
No, that was it's East Germany.
Okay.
It was East when the curtain came down. So they call it Saxony in that area. Mm-hmm. Leipzig, Plauen,
Okay.
And then you come on down, you get toward Czechoslovakia, and it's Eger, and that's where we were, and that's where my recollection started.
So you were still basically in Germany when you were born.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when they annexed, Eger changes every time somebody takes over. When the Germans have it, it's called Eger. When it goes back to the Czechs, it's called Chep, if you remember that,
Yeah.
So that's the same town. And so basically, when the Germans took over Sudetenland, that's what they called it.
Right.
Living room, they
Lebensraum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they transferred Dad there.
Yeah.
And that's how come we wound up in Eger.
Oh, okay.
So
Eger was not where you were born, but that's where you lived.
That's my hometown.
That became your hometown, but you were born in Glauchau.
That's right.
Okay. So your dad was in the military. But what was your earliest, and you don't remember your dad, but what was your earliest memory in Germany?
Okay, so far as, I think kindergarten age is about 5?
4 or 5.
4 or 5, yeah. Well, right across the street from us, they had a kindergarten.
Okay.
And so I went there, and of course, they taught you how to actually almost write, the color and cut with scissors and all that stuff, and just got your hands used to forming around a pencil or something.
So it's pretty advanced.
Yeah. So
kindergarten is a German word anywhere.
Yeah. Kindergarten.
So
of course they had the nap time, playtime, and we stayed there. I guess about 5 hours.
Okay. Now, when you were 4 or 5, that would place you probably about 1941, somewhere right in there as far as memory.
Right.
Yeah. What was your, let's see, do you remember your dad at all?
Nope, I don't remember. I just vaguely remember him giving us a bath, okay?
Yeah.
But that's all. Like the face is gone and all that's gone.
Yeah.
And now I did correspond with him later on when I was in school there.
Right.
But after kindergarten, we started school.
Yeah.
And of course, over there, the tradition is when you start school, you know, they give you all this tita and all that stuff to start school and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I got pictures of that someplace. Well, when we got there to school, we were taught by SS.
Wow. Talk about the SS teachers.
Yeah. What they did, they either made the teachers SS or the SS replaced them. I don't know which it was. Because things, you know, to me, I just went to school.
Yeah.
And they were really strict. They made you learn. If you didn't learn, what corporal punishment was the name of the game.
Yeah.
So I remember getting hit all the time.
Yeah.
And so I went through the first grade with that.
Uh-huh.
And of course, they make you sing all these songs, you know.
Patriotic songs.
Yeah, patriotic songs.
Yeah.
I had pictures of Hitler everywhere and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember being there, and they taught us to write with ink in the first grade.
Yeah.
And the pens that they used, they were sticks of wood, and they had these metal tips that you stick in there to write with. Well, later on, they didn't have any more metal. So what they did, you know, they eat a lot of goose over there. So they gave us goose quills, and you kind of cut them at an angle and then split them. And that's what we wrote with. And of course, you had to be real careful, because if you press too hard, it'll leave a big old blob.
Yeah.
And man, did we ever get a whooping in school for that.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't our fault.
Yeah, but they whip you anyway.
We didn't do it right. You know? And so we were just regimented. We marched everywhere, you know, everything was just, you couldn't do anything unless you were told to do it. Well, there's a certain time that you had to do things, you know, you just did it automatically.
You marched everywhere you went.
Yeah. In the school. Now,
did you remember any kind of anti-Semitic indoctrination that they gave you or anything?
No, not the only thing they did. They just I didn't know that there was a United States. You know, everything was about Germany. I didn't know anything outside of my town.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This was just the first grade, so I guess they got us used to just being regimented. You know? But we didn't know anything except Germany.
Yeah. Yeah.
Until later on, you know, when the bombs were falling, they were still telling us. And I was wondering where they were coming from, you know.
Now, was your dad a member of the Nazi Party, or was he just part of the Wehrmacht?
No, he was just regular army, Wehrmacht, yeah.
Okay.
That's what he was.
But I mean, he wasn't officially a member of the Nazi Party.
No. The Nazi Party, as we know it now, you know, they were just a select few that were really close to Hitler and, you know, the leaders. Yeah. But the army, they were a separate entity. You know, they were just all on their own. In fact, they didn't even like him.
Yeah.
So I learned later.
Right.
But he was moved around a lot and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Now, what was his role in the army? Like, in other words, well, first of all, was he officer, enlisted, or?
Yeah. Now his role changed. He was actually a musician.
Okay.
And he was that for a while. And then, as the war escalated, then he did become an officer. He told me.
Okay.
But
he started enlisted, but he became an officer.
Yeah, and I don't know how he became one. He told me what all happened in Russia and stuff, but not how he got promoted. So I can't tell you.
If he was a musician, did he fight as a result of just necessity, or did or did he continue to perform as a musician when he was on the Russian front?
No, he was a musician, and they would like have well, when they have parades, they would play at parades. It's kind of a marching thing, like. And they when Hitler would have his reviews, if he was in the area close by, they would be there, welcome him and all that stuff. So that was just his job going in.
Right.
And he told me that he was drafted. Well, when the war started, when they started moving toward Poland and different places, well, that kind of stopped, So then he became infantry. Well, he was an infantry all along, but then he became a foot soldier. Yeah.
Became foot soldier. Now, was he in all the campaigns? Like, did he go into Poland and then later to France? And
yeah, he was in all of them. Matter of fact, when I found out that he was alive, I invited him to come over here to the States, and he told all his friends in this little village that he was going to fly over here, and they asked him, said, "You mean you're going to fly all the way to America?" He said, "Why not? I walked through Poland, France, Russia, and back." So then he kind of made fun of that. So he was in all those campaigns.
So pretty much he was in Poland, France, and
Poland, France,
Russia,
and of course Barbarossa, Russia.
Okay, so he wasn't involved in, say, like the campaigns in Denmark, Norway, all of it.
Just strictly
just primarily those campaigns. Now, do you know if he was captured at Stalingrad, or was he just captured on the Eastern Front?
No, he was captured, he told me, in Kiev.
Kiev. Okay.
Kiev.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I think that was in
Russia.
In 44 or something like that, because I've got a letter that I had written him on the front. Well, just, a kid, See, there wasn't any school after a while, so I just had a first 1.5 year school maybe, and there wasn't no school after that. So it must have been about that time.
It was probably the time when the Russians were on their counteroffensive and they were coming back toward Germany.
Right.
Okay.
So I don't know, he never said how far he went, but...
Do you know when he was released by the Russians?
Yes, he was released sometimes at the end of 49.
1949.
Yeah,
he was very, very fortunate, because out of the hundreds of thousands of German soldiers that were captured, only 6,000 ever saw Germany again. I didn't know if you were aware of that.
Yeah, I was aware of that. And, the way they did it, where his camp was, it was really cold, he told me, and they didn't even have any fences around there.
Yeah.
So you couldn't go anyplace, And so when they released him, they just let him go. Get back the best way you can.
Now, was he imprisoned in Siberia?
He said up north, someplace where they have a lot of timber, because they were lumberjacks. They had lumberjacks on them. It was real cold.
Yeah.
And he was the foreman. He was in charge of that.
Yeah. Among the prisoners?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course they falsified the records because it's so cold, and everything. Yeah. But that's another story of what he told me, what went on in the prison camp,
Yeah. Now, when he left, he walked all the way back to Germany?
The best way he could, walk, hitch rides and wagons, or whatever, And he was sick too. One of the reasons they released him that early, I guess it was early for the Russians, just because his head was swelling up. It's something, they have a cure for it, but they let him go because of that, hoping he'd die on the way, but he survived.
Wow, that's amazing. What's your most vivid memories of the war?
It's still coming back, bits and pieces. It seems like it was a blank spot in there for some reason. But there are a lot of things. Okay, when they first started the bomb, it was...
Do you remember about what year that was?
It was in the 40s, 43 maybe, or something like that. And they were just coming across, not in droves, just almost like a harassment thing. And they first came over with a lot of planes. They would drop just leaflets, and they would drop pens and different things, and to kind of tell people about different things. And before they would attack, they would actually tell the people somehow through these leaflets and all that they were coming, which they did it on the radio too, and that was forbidden to listen to this British.
Did it on radio?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway,
was it the Americans or was it?
This was Americans.
Okay, propaganda on America.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they would drop all this stuff, and the kids would go out and get it because see what we did. When they came over and dropped a few bombs, not where we were living at the time, but on the outskirts, we would go out to the.
Now you were still in
outside of school then.
I mean the town.
Eger. This is all in Eger.
Okay.
All my memories stem from there.
All right. Okay, so they dropped propaganda, and you would go out and pick it up.
Yeah, and so if they caught you with it,
it could be.
It's really bad. Yeah, they really threaten you, and they start watching you and stuff like that. In fact, later on when we talk about it, I'm going to tell you how Mom got caught, and we almost got sent to Theresienstadt and all that. And so we would go out there and bring this stuff home, and of course the German propaganda said don't pick it up because the candy, it might be poison. They
dropped candy and stuff.
Yeah. Just no, I never found any candy. I just found notes. But some of the other kids, they found the candy.
Yeah. Okay. And so you would take this stuff home and read it and stuff?
I wouldn't. I was a kid, but they were hoping the kids would take it home. The parents would read it. So that's what happened with that. And then, of course, when they started dropping a few bombs out there, we all went out there as kids, and we'd go into these bomb craters, and we would collect the shrapnel out of it. They found some pretty big hunks. Yeah. And then the Germans would pay you for that.
Oh, okay.
And later on, it was pretty profitable.
Yeah. Now, did you ever come across any live ordnance or anything like that?
No, not really. Not at that particular time.
Yeah.
Now, later on, as things escalated, of course, there were planes that were shot down and stuff, and we came up on them, and I don't know what kind of planes they were, but we would go out there at night. Well, we would be out there until night, and we came upon this one airplane. It was a fighter, and we were rummaging around. It was all crumbled up and just in pieces there.
Was the pilot still in there? Or?
Well, the pilot wasn't there, but when we rummaged around, we started looking the seat it had and just prying stuff, trying to find stuff, and we knocked out plexiglass, which we later used the light for a torch at night, because the wind won't blow that out. Yeah. Well, when we were rummaging around, we found a boot, and this friend of mine, he pulled it out, and there was a leg sticking in it. Oh, man. And it was cut off, and the boot was kind of brown looking. Oh, wow. And I never will forget this, and it had sheep wool around the top of it. And the leg was just cut off right there, and that was still there.
Uniform,
yeah. And so it is, of course, it didn't smell good or nothing like that.
Yeah.
The smell didn't get us. We just had it uncovered.
Wow.
And then we used the plexiglass to get home. Of course, at that point we were scared, and we had to go past the cemetery.
Now the plexiglass you used as a cover for the fire.
No, the plexiglass it was shattered already, so we pulled it loose and we lit it. And it's almost like a flashlight. We used it for a torch, so we can see going home.
Now, when y'all were bombed, was it primarily during the day or night, or was it both?
Now, this here in the beginning of what we're talking about now, it was just in the daytime. So these were the Americans.
Yeah. Could you hear the bombers coming over?
Well, yeah, now the first thing that would happen when they would come over, they would blow the siren. Yeah. And so everybody gets into their own cellars. So that's where we went, and then of course, you can hear them come over. And so, but we could hear them come over, but they didn't bomb Eger at that time. See, they came over a lot. But then a little further away, out in the outskirts, I guess it was the airport.
Could you hear the bomb concussions and stuff?
Well, no, you didn't hear anything like that, but you could feel the ground shake just a little, but not a whole lot. Yeah. But I'll tell you later, when we were buried for over 24 hours, when it hit, really hit us. Now we'll talk about that. But at that particular time, you couldn't. You just heard the whole. It sounds like a drone. Ooh, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And then you would hear in the distance, you could feel all the concussion going on.
Yeah.
And you were hoping it wouldn't come toward you, but it was going away from us.
Right.
So, but anyway, after that airplane deal, we went home with the light, and some of the bombs, there was a cemetery out there. And they hit that cemetery, and it unearthed all that stuff.
Oh, man.
And so this was at night, and we were, 7, 8?
Yeah.
Man, you're talking about running. That's how come I can tell you that those torches didn't go out.
Oh, man. So y'all saw bodies laying everywhere and everything?
Yeah, coffins up on the ground, bones laying around, stuff like that.
Wow.
So it's nighttime, that's what made it so bad.
Yeah.
So,
oh, wow. Okay, well, tell me about the worst bombing attack that you remember. Now, I guess this would be right at the end of the war, right?
Yep. The worst one, the one that got us.
Mm-hmm.
It was in April of 1945, toward the middle, and I think it might have been at Easter time or sometime like that. It was on a Sunday. And what led up to it, now we were getting harassed a lot at night too, the British, and all that. It was a 24-hour thing. So we always had a suitcase packed. So they were building a bomb-proof shelter next to our house, and that's been in progress for about a year and a half, and we always would go there and play in it, and they'd run us off, but so we kind of got familiar with it. And it was getting close to having it finished. Because see, every time they had an alarm, we would have to go into our own cellar, and they would have a hole. These were apartment houses, so underneath the ground, you could go to every house. It was like a block of apartments. So if you knocked out that little concrete thing and hole, you could go to the next cellar and so forth to save you, okay? So that's where we usually went. Well, this thing was new, and it was bomb-proof, right? And that was built primarily for the people getting off the train station. We lived really close to that, and this big railroad, to come over to be safe. Well, we kept after Mom to go over there and try it out. And she said, no, we got our own, why go over there? So this went on for a few times, So finally on this Sunday, she said, okay, we'll go over there and, try it out. So when I try it out, just go, she appeased us. Well, the way it was laid out on the inside, it had a big hallway going down. It was a big place. And on each side of the hallway, they had little cubicles. They were concrete little cubicles. But they didn't have doors on them. They just had openings, and they were staggered going down. Okay, like no opening from one cubicle wouldn't be, like you could see the guys and the people in the other one. So this is how that was arranged. Well, we went in there, and of course at that time, the sirens quit blowing. There weren't any sirens. So you heard things, and if somebody had a radio, the Germans would tell you where they were bombing, and so if you knew the town that's close to your town and they were coming your way, they would tell you that the enemy is coming this way. Prepare yourself. Well, Mom heard that, and that's what got her into trouble. Well, I get to this after we finish this one.
All right.
So we went next door, and we didn't get there. It wasn't no time at all. And at that time, now whatever airplanes they were, I thought it was the ones with the tails like that, but you said it's the 17s.
Well, now it could have been B-24s. Cause,
maybe that, yeah.
Because you had, in the European theater, they used both. They probably used more B-24s than they did B-17s, although B-17 has more visibility in terms of, that's what most people remember, but I think there's a massive amount of B-24s. B-24s and B-17s were used, primarily.
And they were, at the time, using these new bombs, the blockbusters, they call them. And I think they were 500-pound bombs or something. Somebody hooked a bunch of them together.
I think they primarily dropped 500-pound bombs and 1,000-pound bombs.
Okay, these were the big ones.
Okay.
So one of them probably came through.
Yeah.
But when they came over, now you could hear the drone from far, far away. I mean, they had to be far away to hear them. And they were really loud. And then you could feel or well, you could feel the ground shaking.
Yeah.
And it would just shake, and it would get louder. Now, it wouldn't be a long pause in between. It would just like a wave coming, just like it, boom, 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 and then all of a sudden, there's one that came through this bomb-proof shelter, and it landed. Well, it went through on the other side. If we were maybe 2 cubicles down, and it blew all that wall in. It blew our wall in, and of course, the first thing that happens, the lights go completely out.
Yeah.
There was a lot of dust in there, a lot of screaming. People were hurt. And so, matter of fact, we were sitting on a bench, and after they started digging us out, well, the bench was broken from the concussion and stuff like that, and we couldn't breathe. There was dust in there. It felt like there's a lot of pressure on you when this thing went off and all this stuff. I mean, it's just a real weird feeling. I mean, it's just like you was someplace else. It's just like
an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, it's just like, it's really strange. And then Mom had sanitary napkins with her in her suitcase, and we always had water, and we had our little suitcases, and she took the napkins and she had put water on them and put it over our nose and mouth and hers too to filter the dust out. And we were in there for over 24 hours before they dug us out.
Wow, y'all were buried.
Yeah, we were buried.
Yeah.
We couldn't get out because that bomb came through and it just destroyed most of the top of it. And that where we were was closest to the airport there in our house. It was about 3/4 of the way.
Yeah.
And so when we came out, there was nothing. Like all the houses that were there were gone.
Now this was the next day.
Yeah, the next day, and it was daylight again. Now that was on a Monday then.
Were y'all in total darkness?
Yes, no, there was no candles. It was just looking back, I guess, just complete chaos.
Yeah. Now, were y'all the only ones in this particular place?
No.
I mean, I'm talking about in your room.
Yeah, there was us, and I think there were 2 or 3 more. So I don't know. It must have
maybe another family or something.
Yeah.
Now, did y'all panic when you were in there? I mean, like, you remember people panicking or?
No, I tell you what, I panicked before because every time we would go into a cellar on a raid, I'd be the first one in there. And we lived 4 stories up, 4 flights, and I could beat anybody down there. I'd be the first one there, and I'd sit there on the bench with my fingers in the ear. See, I didn't want to hear nothing.
Yeah.
So when all this was going on, nobody panicked. There were just screams and just moans, stuff like that going on. So there's nobody was running any place.
Could you hear the screams and moan after you were trapped?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah.
And how many people do you think were killed and injured in that place?
That I couldn't really say because we were just so glad to get out. See, there was no news. I mean, nobody would tell you anything.
Right.
So
did you actually see dead bodies as you were being taken out, or?
Pieces of them, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, remains.
Yeah.
And so there were a lot. When we got out, like I said, now our apartment place, the whole block was about 7 stories tall, and we lived maybe on the 4th floor. Well, our part of it was completely gone because it was closer over to the airport, to the railroad and the airport further down.
Right.
Had we stayed in our cellar, we would not be here.
Oh wow!
Because the bombs just went all the way down. There was nothing but a hole.
So your house was completely destroyed. Huh?
Yeah, that section of it. See, it was a third of a block because it was laid out like a square with one part opening, and the inside of it was used for yards, hang your clothes, and put ashes out for everybody, And so it was all, our house was gone, and as it went down, it started, the rubble started to rise, the apartments, and the ones that escaped the most of it were the ones on the other side.
Oh, wow.
And so when we turned around, we really didn't know where we were.
Yeah.
And there was, rubble was there, and it was all on fire that would burn, and there were holes bomb craters just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And Mom didn't even know which way to turn.
Yeah.
You know, and so we were just standing on a pile of bricks, you know, I mean, just stuff. And so we had to clamber down to get toward, well, it wasn't level ground, but to get out of the bricks, you know, and just walk down a bomb crater and up the other one and went up the side. And this you will not believe. When she got her bearing, we started to go up there where this old church was.
Mm-hmm.
And we never went to it, but it was up there. It was a small church.
Right.
And we went up there toward it, and there was a German soldier coming down the sidewalk.
Uh-huh.
And he was on crutches, so he was there convalescing.
Mm-hmm.
And as Mom was going to ask, you know, where to go, if they got anything going on. And in fact, some other people told her, you know, what day it was and stuff like that. Well, when he came toward us, she was going to ask him something else, and his face was completely gone. Greg. His face was just shredded. So he got caught in a blast someplace, and he was just walking like a
zombie.
Yeah, just like that. See, and there wasn't any, it looked just almost like hamburger meat, but it wasn't bleed. The blood wasn't running. You know, it was just hamburger. You know, but he was walking, and he just going. He didn't even know we were there.
Did he ever fall or? No,
he was just he was walking slow with one leg on crutches and, you know, stuff like that. And then this church, when we passed it, while everything was pretty much, you know, had damage of some sort, that church wasn't touched.
Oh wow!
I will never forget that.
Wow! And that was the only thing standing, basically.
More or less. It wasn't even, as far as I can remember,
it
Mom
wasn't
talking.
touched.
Yeah, the windows were in and out.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh wow! That's almost like a miracle or something.
It's amazing that we got out of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
See, and then of course, before that really happened, we went through town because they was hitting some of it now and then, and just look at the damage. And they had, before this happened, but the other people got hit worse than us at the time. It was maybe accidental bombing down there, whatever. They had mass graves, so everybody went down to look at the damage and get to the cemetery where they had dug this moat, because they just had pieces of people that they would just had in gunny sacks. And just, you know, put them in the ground.
It was mostly pieces.
Yeah, they were gunny sacks full of body parts. And so we would, everyone would turn up to pay respects because they didn't know who it was. Because by that time everybody was kind of here and there. You know, nobody knew where anybody was. And when we came away from that, we got into Egg and Mom was hungry. So we were going to go to this restaurant across the street. And the funny thing is, not funny, but the Americans or somebody would drop these anti-personnel mines out of the airplanes. And, you know, they have a lot of cobblestone over there. And you can't see them. They blend in with the stones and stuff, you know. Well, there were these 3 Hitler Youth that were in front of us. We were stopped at the corner deciding to go across. While these Hitler Youth were in front of us. And they were walking, they were about 3/4 of the way to the other side of the street where we were going. And we just stepped off the curb to go that way when they stepped on one of those mines. No. So it killed, I think, one for sure that I know of, but you know, it messed all of them up. So had it not been for them again, Greg,
it saved you from
getting hurt again.
Yeah.
And then I was shot at by the fighters would come in. Early, and they would clear the, you know, they would fire around town and stuff like that to get.
Now, who was this?
Americans. See, this is all daytime stuff.
Well, I mean, was this troops or planes?
Planes.
Would come in and shoot.
They would strafe.
Like strafe you.
They would strafe. They wouldn't pick you out. We just happened to be there, but they would shoot at anything to get it out of the way. Yeah. Like the AAAs they had on their roofs and all that stuff, you know. Yeah. Well, my brother and I, we were going home. And we were just got out of town, and the sidewalks were pretty spacey. You know, we were going up there, and we were maybe, say, 3/4 mile from home. Well, the siren blew, and we thought we could make it, so we started going. Well, the siren was late. The fighters came in. There might have been something new that they started at the time. Well, my brother and I, we were running to go up the hill to get home. Well, when they started to shoot with those 50 calibers, somebody had jerked us off that sidewalk into the house. You know, these Dutch doors that they have? Well, as soon as they jerked us in there, those doors flew off, it disintegrated the doors, the door jams, and you know, they really have big brick around those things. It just tore it all up. To this day, now see, that's the third time that we got saved. Don't know those people's name. We were scared, and as soon as that happened, we went out and ran home.
Oh, wow.
So.
When you got home, of course, there was nothing there, right?
Well, no. Now, see, this was before our house was destroyed.
Yeah,
this was all before.
This is a different time.
Yeah. So it's three different times.
Yeah.
So basically, when we lost our house, this was in April of '45.
Okay.
And this was in the '44s.
Okay.
See all this.
So 44 when all this other happened.
Yeah, like when I looked for the shrapnel and all that stuff.
I got you.
They started bombing more, and we got paid for the shrapnel. They made bullets out of whatever they did. But we lost everything in April. Well, just before the war basically ended. See.
Now, what did you do to? Well, before I get there, you mentioned your mom was almost arrested.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Now, we were listening to this British. Well, she was listening to the British broadcast, BB, whatever they call it, and they would tell you what was going on, what was going to happen, and in effect, at one point, they told civilians, Mom said, to get away from that area because they're going to be bombing. See, I mean, they told you. So even the German army knew what was going to happen, but at that point, they really couldn't do much about it. Well, she always listened to it, and the guy that lived below us, or was he above us? Well, one or the other. He owned a local grocery store that was just at the end of the block there, and he was an SS guy. But see, nobody really knew it. He was one of these snitches, like they had these block.
Guy, he owned a grocery store.
Yeah, he owned his own grocery store, and everybody went to get we had rations, and it wasn't very much to get, Greg. And so everybody knew him, but we didn't know his role.
Right.
And so he had people under him. Well, he happened to live either above or below us. I don't know which. Well, he heard Mom listening to the broadcast. He turned her in to the SS. That was his job, see. Well, the SS came and arrested her and took her in for interrogation. And she was gone for a few days one time. Then she was gone about a week. And we didn't know where we were. And our neighbor across the hall from us was watching us. Well, she came back home and she told us, she said that, we're going to have to move here. Well, they were going to send us to Theresienstadt. Yeah, Theresienstadt.
Did they actually send you there? Or?
No, they got us ready to go there. And this is what the strange thing is, and what this concentration camp was, they used it as a model.
Oh, it was a concentration camp?
Yeah, it's a concentration camp. It was a model concentration camp that they showed to the Red Cross that everything was up and up, okay? But behind the scenes, they would send you from there to Auschwitz or wherever, see? But if you were to walk in, you see gardens and everything nice. That's what that was all about.
Yeah.
Okay, we were going to go there, but their plans got changed because April came, and we got bombed out, and they couldn't find us. Well, they probably got killed anyway. So
that's another time we got saved. Concentration.
Yeah, so that was another time we got saved. That's 4 times.
4 times saved.
Yeah, and by the Americans.
Now, what about the prisoner carved a bird out of potatoes, I guess?
Oh, no, okay, now.
Okay.
This was not an Eger. Now, this was, I guess, back in '42 when they were taking prisoners from France and all that stuff, and they took them to Glauchau, and this is where my mother's mother lived.
Okay.
And she had cancer, and we went to visit.
Glauchau?
No, No, one glad was, wait a minute, let me think. Werdau, yeah.
And they took like prisoners from France and stuff there.
They had Poland, they had just everybody.
Everybody.
And they were in a creek bed. Well, the water was there, but their banks are really steep.
Now, Werdau was in Germany, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not far from us.
Okay.
Not far from Eger. Yeah, and it was pretty long. There was a lot of them in there. I mean, know. And so we just happened to go by, and they stayed there for a while. And we would go there, and they were hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were begging for food from kids and stuff. So it wasn't far from where my grandmother lived.
Mm-hmm.
So I got her potatoes, and I got in trouble for it. And we gave them potatoes that first time, and I took more potatoes. So we went there about 3 or 4 times. And there's this one guy, he was always there where I showed up to give potatoes along with the rest of them, but he stood out. And when I came the last time with potatoes, he was there and he had carved a bird out of a block of wood. I mean, it had like the back feathers were there, I mean, it was just a bird.
Amazing,
Yeah, I mean, and I had that, and of course that was. Then we went back to Eger, and that was it.
Now, did he give you this?
Yeah, he gave me the bird because I got potatoes for him and for the rest of them. Yeah.
Oh,
so we fed them, I mean, as far as it went. But
that's nice to hear that y'all tried to help people like that. You know, I mean, do you still have that?
No, I don't know what happened to it. I mean, like I only have one picture left of myself, and I showed it to you when my dad was holding me. That's the only picture we have. I mean, we lost everything.
Everything.
And Mom she was the custodian. My dad's family was a military family. And she was in charge of all the uniforms. We had all the uniforms complete with sabers and stuff going way back before the Kaiser.
Oh, wow.
All that stuff's gone. And the medals that she had, she always took that box of medals with us wherever we went, because that was important stuff.
Did you see, well, first of all, did they try to recruit you in the Hitler Youth or anything like that?
No, because at that time, 46, things weren't that organized anymore, but I did get my tail beat by the Hitler Youth. I found one of their knives. They're really neat knives. Have you ever seen one of them? That they're really nice, and they got the
like a dagger or something?
Yeah, it's a dagger, and it's got a triangle, and it's, I think, black, red, and white, and it's got the swastika in the middle. Well, I found it, and I had it, and I was going home, and these Hitler Youths saw me with it, and they took it from me and beat me up because I wasn't one of them and had something that belonged to them, which wasn't their personal thing, but, I shouldn't have it.
Right.
So, no, I was never in the Hitler Youth.
Okay, now, your mom, when they took her, do you think they tortured her?
I don't know. It seemed like she was okay. She was just nervous, worried.
Yeah.
But if she had any physical marks, I didn't see them.
Yeah.
Well, I never saw her.
Yeah.
They're covered pretty well.
Right. This was April 1945. The war was coming in when y'all got bombed. Did you see any retaliation against the German people in those last few days, like being hung from lampposts or anything like that, as a warning to y'all or anything like that?
No, not in this town here. It was just, where I was chaos, and I think what you have reference to are the soldiers that didn't want to fight anymore.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, they didn't do this to civilians, and I never did see this.
Yeah.
But toward the end, I did see some high officials, after the Americans were occupying, that they had captured or somehow got killed, and they would have them in these hay wagons and bring them to the little villages we were in at the time,
So you saw German officials' dead bodies in hay wagons?
Yeah.
The area you were in, was that area taken over or occupied by the Russians, or was it occupied by Allied forces, or like the
Americans? It was the first division, I think it was. It had a big red one.
Big Red Run.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
First Infantry Division. Yeah. They occupied there.
Yeah. And
now, did y'all have to? What did you do after you lost your house? I mean, where did you go?
Well, we just wandered around.
Yeah.
And so we were following people, all the refugees, they had lines going away.
Yeah.
Well, we did that, and we went toward the airfield that was all tore up, okay?
Uh-huh.
So at that point, there were still German soldiers around.
Yeah.
Air Force guys and stuff like that. And they had caves in the side of these hills, and they had the barracks in front of them. And on our way over there, now we got strafed because they had military vehicles there and stuff like that. So we escaped that. So they took us into these caves, and we stayed there for about almost 3 days. And they would give us some canned food now and then.
The German soldiers.
The German soldiers did. And they were staying in their barracks out on the front. And when planes would come over, they would come into the cave because that was close to where their barracks was. Well, we stayed there, and all of a sudden we went out one day, and the German soldiers were gone. So they left some food, and we had the food. Well, we stayed in this cave, and so we were afraid to go any place because things were going on. And then all of a sudden, things just kind of quit. No more planes or nothing like that. We didn't know what was going on. We were just out there.
Right.
And on the way there, we saw a lot of roadblocks going to the caves.
Now, these Americans?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
Like when we were going when we were refugees, the German soldiers were with us too, see. We went through roadblocks that they had set up because of the invasion that was coming. And I remember seeing discarded weapons like the Panzerfaust, those things they kill the tanks with. They call them Panzerfaust and all that stuff. Yeah,
like a bazooka.
Bazookas,
thing,
yeah.
Or
they were discarded and they just bugged out. Well, they were gone, and so we had some of their food, but people were still afraid to go. So somebody went out, and they didn't come back. So we thought of the worst. Well, then somebody else went out, but they came back. Like I said, we stayed there about 2.5, 3 days. So they came back, and they gave us the news that the Americans are in Eger, and we weren't far from Eger because we were just on the outskirts of it by the airfield. They were coming that way, but they're good. They give candy to kids and stuff like that, and cigarettes to kids and just all that stuff. So, but they said that they don't like Nazis.
Yeah.
And so, Mom had this big box of all these medals. And so in her mind, now see, she could speak English because she took English in Germany, and she was a chef. And so she left that thing in the cave, or she might have even buried it. And come to find out, that's not what they were after all. And so we lost all that heirloom. Can you believe that? Being afraid. Yeah, just being afraid.
But I mean, she didn't have like Nazi symbols or anything.
No, these were just metal decorations.
Medals, yeah.
And seeing the stuff that she had from my dad, his decorations, well, they were non-existent. You know, because everything was destroyed. We didn't have anything. It was just old medals.
Wow.
Collectors.
And that was like going way back in your family and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then what we found, then we went out and we went back to Eger. Well, there was this castle close to Eger, and they had a restaurant there, and they also had a few houses there that was untouched and stuff, and the town wasn't completely gone. It was just a sporadic. The church again, they had a big church with a lot of steeples, high steeples, and some of those were gone. But they replaced them with shorter ones, but the churches are still there. And the squares of all that. And I see pictures of
where?
This was in Eger. That's where it all started, yeah.
Okay.
And so we went back there because we were just on the outskirts, running. And she ran into somebody that ran that restaurant. So they took my brother, myself, and Mom in just to stay there. Well, the Americans were there. And being that she could speak English, she kind of befriended them, talked to them and all that stuff. And so they found out that they were leaving the east, going west, because the Russians were going to come in. Well, the Americans, they had a whole bunch of deuce and a halves, 2.5-ton trucks. And they were taking as many Germans with them as they could. Well, Mom befriended them, being that she could speak the language, so we were picked. to get on these trucks, and they were loaded. I mean, we were all standing room only, and we went, and they found out to see Mom. She was a chef.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, in Leipzig, she cooked for Hitler one time, not for him personally, but she was a dietitian,
Right.
and he happened to be in Leipzig, and he stopped at that restaurant where she was working. So she was, what she cooked, he ate, but he didn't say, "Cook this for me." You know?
Yeah. I see what you're talking about.
Yeah. So anyway, we got on these trucks, and they found out that she was a chef. So she had met my stepdad. That's who she met there, and he was in supply. So they said,
she met him in Ager.
yeah, at the castle, and he's the one that got us out. And she kind of hung with him, but he set up through orders these refugee camps where, well, what wasn't a camp, it was a stopover where people could eat, and the Americans would supply the food, and Mom would cook it for all these refugees. Of course, we ate well because, she was in charge and all that stuff, and the Americans fed the people going through. Well, when Dad got transferred, she just kept following him to different places, and so one thing led to another.
So they basically, based on probably Potsdam agreement, this was an area that they had to give up for and give over to the Russians, basically.
Yeah, it just all that Sudetenland.
So they had actually captured it, but yet they pulled out in order for the Russians to come in.
Yeah. So the American, in other words, that's when they started to separate, when they parceled off Germany.
East Germany and West Germany.
Yeah,
okay.
like the French, the British.
So Ager became part of East Germany.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ager and a lot of the other German towns.
So they got as many of the Germans out of that part as they could to keep them falling into Russian hand.
Yeah, not only that, but there wasn't any place for them to go, so we were really lucky. And they had a whole bunch of deuce and a halves, and we were riding day and night on.
What was your? I know your impression of the Americans had to be good, but basically your impression of the American soldier was pretty good, I'd say.
Yeah, they were really good. The kids, and stuff. So I'm going to speak for that, but of course they dealt with the ones they had to deal with.
Right.
So, but yeah, they loved kids.
How was were you able to speak English at that time, or?
No, didn't speak nothing but German. But when Mom.
Can you still speak German?
Yeah, but you won't believe it. I had forgotten it because even Mom married and we came over here.
Yeah.
She told us no German. This is our new home.
Yeah.
Just stay there. I mean, she was really
strict. She believed in assimilation.
That's right.
Yeah.
She didn't bring her culture with her. I mean, it was us in a new place, and she was grateful to get out of what we left.
Right.
It was hell,
Yeah.
And so no German, so I forgot it.